What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Coach Landon, and I'm back. Today, we have a very, very good interview with Coach Connor Patten up at Carroll College. Coach has some really good advice. Male or female basketball players, listen to what Coach has to say. The one thing that really stood out was when he talked about getting out of your comfort zone. Take a seat, get comfortable, check out the interview. Let's get into it right after we run this intro. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy, Coach Landon, back again. I know it's been a while. Now that high school season is over, AAU season has began, and college recruiting is in full swing. We got Coach Patten with us today. Coach Patten is on the men's basketball side at Carroll College, and we're going to ask some questions and get you guys some input just into the brain of a college coach and keep it going the way we were last year. So, with no further ado, we'll let Coach introduce himself, kind of give you guys a little bit of background, and then we'll jump into some questions.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Coach. So, I'm actually a Utah native. I actually grew up in South Jordan for most of my life. Went to Anthem Preparatory School. Their head coach is now Marty Haas, and he's got a good thing going over there.
Mhm.
So, played varsity basketball for 3 years. Had some recruitment for some JUCOs back east. Ultimately, though, decided to serve an LDS mission for 2 years in Oregon, um, and kind of tried to get back into the college game right after my mission. So, kind of did some help around Snow College's men's program here and there. And then, got married and moved down to St. George, where I was on the support staff for Utah Tech University under John Judkins for about 2 years. Learned a lot there from him and the coaches. Also from former Bingham coach Jake Schroeder. He helped kind of mentor me and tutor me a little bit. That's where I ultimately found my desire for coaching. I mean, at that point, I was doing group and individual workouts with kids who attended nearby high schools in the St. George area. Um, and so kind of expressed that desire and got to work with networking kind of right away. Um, Ultimately, got in touch with Ryan Lundgren, who was the former lead assistant at College of Southern Idaho, one of the best junior colleges in the country. He got the head job at Carroll. Um, and then when he got that job, because of building those connections, he was able to call me and have me on. And right, currently I'm the assistant coach and director of ops, you could say, kind of handling lots of different aspects as far as camps, recruiting. Kind of been here ever since, and it's been a blast. So that's where I kind of come from.
A lot of connections. So, Anthem right now, one of their assistant coaches, Chris Wilcox, is a friend of mine. Um, everybody knows the Hawes family. Everybody in the
Yeah.
state of Utah knows the Hawes family. Great guys over there doing some really good stuff there. And with Mountain Stars, a lot of respect for that program. Um, and I'm currently coaching over at Bingham right now. So um, we get to see all the banners and everything in history from the previous eras, and we're trying to build something over there to hang something and add to the decor up in the gym. So a lot of connections there. I love it. So Carroll College, go ahead and let all the people watching know where you guys are, what level you guys play on.
Yeah. So we're located in Helena, Montana, beautiful part of the state. I mean, just right in the central area. Um, I'd say we compete in a very, if not the toughest conference in NAIA basketball. So you got different levels such as, JUCO, you got NCAA. NAIA is like a good in between to where, you got all sorts of talent in that. And I think that's what makes it so tough is, one night you're probably playing against a JUCO call up that has been recruited, and maybe a next night you're playing a D1 fallback. So it's just one of those things to where you're getting a lot of exposure and great talent every night, and competing in a frontier conference to where all of our schools are in Montana. So we get a lot of, Montana State, University of Montana, Miles City Community College, and colleges nearby in the States to where there's talent that's brewing, there's talent that's being recruited there. Um, and so that's what, kind of makes it tough too, as well as, being an NAIA school, it allows you to possibly play against some tough NCAA D1 programs. Like for us this season, we played against, Utah Valley at their home. And, an experience that was really cool is we played UNLV at the Thomas and Mack. Probably wasn't, a competitive game to them, but it allowed for good experience for us going into conference play. So I'd say NAIA basketball is one of those leagues to where, if you want a mixture of talent and you want some of the best talent that's underrated, you go play there. So it's been fun. It's a really fun league. No game is a give me, which is something that I love. I want to give teams all that we have, but I want them to give us all that we got too, so we can beat them at 100%.
There you go. And being in the NAI level, especially in that region, outside of just the original Montana kids that are in your backyard, you guys are really close to a lot of the NWAC schools as well. So being
Mhm.
close to NWAC schools, also having connections in different areas, different parts of the country, it's got to be pretty fun on the recruiting side for you to not necessarily have to just rely on the talent right there in your backyard. But I mean, you were out here last weekend and there's opportunities to watch kids from where you grew up at and there's a lot of unseen talent all over the country. And I played in the NWAC after I played in Region 18. And so I know that there's a ton of talent out there. And the Cascade Conference had a lot of talent when I was out there at OIT and Southern Oregon and Eastern. And so it's good to know that there's opportunities out there for kids that may not be directly right in your backyard that you might not, maybe you don't get to go watch them in a high school game, but if they become a right fit, then that's an opportunity possibly for them too.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So we'll jump into kind of a question. You made a comment about transfers. I want to kind of talk about the impact of transfer portals versus incoming freshmen. A lot of kids think, oh, at 4-year levels, there's not an opportunity for an incoming freshman to just come in and play. Um, because if it's a 4-year school and they need a player, they're probably just going to get somebody out of the portal. Now, in talking to college coaches, I've also heard, different coaches and different systems have different philosophies and different ideologies on how they're going to run and build their team and their program. And some coaches want those 4-year kids that they can bring in and kind of get acclimated to the system that first year, kind of make them earn that time the second year, lean on them a little bit more third and fourth year. At Carroll, how does that role play in versus the transfer portal guys versus the incoming freshman guys at Carroll? How do you guys kind of navigate that portion?
Yeah. And I think that's a really good question because the transfer portal is just crazy, at this moment. Everyone's just picking each other up. And I feel like that can be hard, especially, the NCAA is going to be the hot spot for it. And obviously NAIA, a lot of players are entering the transfer portal there, and D1s are picking them up. Um, Something, at Carroll, my head coach, coming from College of Southern Idaho, he lived in the transfer portal. JUCO coaches, they, look for the D1 fallbacks. They look for kids that were kind of underlined and you pick them up. And that's something that he's trying to do at Carroll. Makes it a little harder since Carroll's very prestigious academically. Um, you're going to get a good degree out of it, but the schooling is pretty rigorous. So having those high character and talented kids is something that we kind of recruit for. But something that I think NAIA kind of offers to kind of counteract the transfer portal dilemma right now is there's JV basketball.
Mhm.
And, a lot of kids probably hearing this right now, you're probably like, oh, JV, that's a sour taste in my mouth. But JV, at the NAIA level is actually pretty competitive. And if you want a chance to get on a roster and have quality playing time. JV is always an option. I mean, for me, that was kind of my opportunity starting the inaugural season of our JV program that starts this next season. I was looking for kids that maybe are a bit underlined, maybe are not quite there developmentally for a varsity squad in NAIA. We look for those kids that are looking to develop and want to have that option of playing college basketball. We recruit those kids, and then that gives them the opportunity to where, hey, they'll be the first guys that are probably being recruited, besides kind of transfer portal. Um, you'll be looking at those JV guys. How have they developed? Are they doing well? Can they make an immediate impact once they come in? And I feel like that's something NAIA offers and is an option for a lot of kids that maybe won't get on a roster because of the transfer portal. They can reach out to coaches about, JV programs, get that exposure that way, and get quality minutes as a freshman so that, the head coach is going to be watching and there's opportunities to move up from there. I think it all really just comes down to like, you got to put in the work for it. You got to be proactive. If that's that word that I like to use as a coach is if you want to get that exposure and kind of fight the transfer portal, you got to be proactive. You got to be fighting harder, if not harder than the transfer guys. Reaching out to coaches, sending your film, let them know that you're willing to, go into anything. I want to be a JV guy. I just want to have an opportunity. No, for me as a coach, hearing that, no, that puts a lot of trust first off. Like, hey, this guy really wants an opportunity. And if he maybe wants a JV spot or something like that, just shows like, hey, they're actually proactive. And I hope they're like that in this program to where they're willing to be coachable in that way. So there's a lot of different avenues, but it really just comes down to how much work are you willing to put off in the off season to actually reach out to coaches, to maybe stop by a campus that's nearby you, speak with a coach personally, get them on a phone call, look into JV programs. Like it really just comes down to how willing are you to want this? How hungry are you for it? And usually if you're hungry enough, there's going to be a program that really wants you. So there's many opportunities.
I agree. So I'm gonna turn your response into two follow-up questions. One, does JV basketball use NAI eligibility?
It does. Yes.
So it's almost like a red shirt year, but you're getting to play in competitive games versus just the practice and the workouts. You don't travel as a red shirt. But in this opportunity, you could potentially open some doors by having a good freshman season and then maybe having an opportunity to get varsity time that following year is the ultimate goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say, even I would tell kids that I recruit to JV is if you play JV ball for 4 years, you're playing college basketball at a really high level. I mean, Carroll College, we made a national tournament appearance this year. We're very highly accredited, and we want that for our JV team as well, to where we're going to recruit those guys that are going to be winners,
Yeah,
that are going to be highly talented as well. Again, you're going to have your own games, and it also gives you an opportunity, to grow, with the connections that we have as a coaching staff. I mean, scheduling some junior college games with some colleges in the area and around the states, some top prep programs. No, you're going to be having decent exposure. So that's why I think it's important to definitely research those things of how well accredited the school is, the connections. But Carroll, the JV team is going to be very good developmentally. And it just all comes down to the kids that really want it and the kids that are willing to be coached.
yeah.
And if you play 4 years at JV, hey, that's college basketball. Not a lot of kids get that. So
So the second part, you made a comment about if they're willing to put in the work to reach out to coaches. So every coach kind of handles things different. Obviously, the higher up the ladder you go, the harder it is to get head coaches' attention,
mhm.
phone call or an email or a tweet or a DM. But for you specifically, what tends to be the most effective way? Say there's 5'8", 6'8" kid. He plays decent varsity minutes. He's a solid contributor. Statistically, he's contributing. Academically, we're going to get him eligible and he's going to be able to make the admissions process. And he says, I'd love to play at Carroll College. I just need to get, coach's attention. For you, what have you found is the most effective way for younger kids to get coach's attention, to just begin the communication process? Not, hey, coach, I'm here. Oh, yeah, I love your film. Come up for a visit. But to get that ball rolling, to get that first domino to fall. For you, what have you seen has been the most effective way for those high school kids to get college coaches' attention?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I'm a very open person. I feel like everyone deserves an opportunity just to be heard. I'm the type of coach that's willing to, listen and read an email. You don't get a lot of that, especially a lot of coaches, they kind of delegate certain things or maybe it passes along the wayside. But for me, I think like it's important to send a personal email through kind of your email. I mean, I get all the NCSA emails about film and everything like that. I feel like that's important, and a great tool to have. But maybe just adding a personal touch to it with your own email. Um, let me know, hey, where you're from, your class, your GPA, what you like about Carroll, so I know that you're actually looking into it and not just kind of giving us an option. Tell us why you like the school and what you like about it. That's something that kind of goes a long way, leaving your phone number so I can text you, keep in touch with you, give you a call to just let you know what we look like. Obviously, I'm going to be forwarding this email to my other coaches on the coaching staff along with the head coach. So they're aware I'm talking. So you won't be in the dark in that way, which is really nice. Um, and, another big kind of thing of advice that I would give to these athletes, that if you really want to play, you really want to make a good impression, and you feel like you really are good enough, is stopping by for a campus visit, stopping by the basketball offices. No, Helena's not too far away. It's about 7-8 hours, not too bad. But it's one of those ways to where us as a coaching staff is just very open to visitors, very open to giving campus tours. Maybe even participating in a little workout we can put you through. It just kind of shows like, hey, this kid really wants it.
Yeah.
This kid's looking to go somewhere. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out, us as coaches, we have connections. And so we can be like, hey, this kid came to our campus. He did a little workout. I feel like he'd be good for a Treasure Valley, a Green River, an NWAC school, or somewhere, in Region 18, something like that. So putting in that work in that way, maybe it does help you get a roster spot at Carroll or another school you visit. But ultimately, if it doesn't work out, good coaches are going to help you make those connections to help you find somewhere that means something and something that's the right fit for you.
Yeah. And I think that's important for athletes to understand, is that just because you reach out to the coach at this school, that may not be the final destination. That may not be your landing point, but it starts that process, right? It's kind of like, hey, you didn't show up as a freshman and make the varsity team. You played your freshman year on the freshman team. Sophomore year, you played sophomore and got a little JV time. Like, it is a process. And I think parents and players need to understand that the recruiting is a process. It's not, every coach you talk to isn't going to say, hey, send me film. Hey, I love your film. Hey, let's get you on campus for a visit. Hey, fly into this airport. We'll pick you up.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that journey looks different at different destinations. And sometimes it ends up opening a door elsewhere that you probably wouldn't have thought of. So I'm glad that you said that. Um, I know that we talked about the high academics. We know that an AIA is 4-year level. It is competitive. There's no easy games where, sometimes you get into certain regions and different JUCO conferences, and sometimes those bottom teams that are struggling with recruiting, you can look at that kind of like, oh, yeah, we know we can get those guys. So we'll get our bench guys in more in that game. But overall, big picture, not anything specific, but what kind of player does it take to make a Carroll College roster if we're looking at, and let's just go short term, let's say the 2024 class, the 2025 class, like what kind of players are in your on your recruiting board in the next two classes?
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as personality wise, we want kids that are strong in character. We're recruiting kids that are going to excel at Carroll. They're going to have that Carroll attitude of they're going to go and they're going to succeed at Carroll in the classroom, on the court, and whatever they do afterwards. I feel like that's really important because, like I said, the academics can be pretty rigorous, but you have kids that maintain good grade point averages. They're going to be more engaged on the court. They're going to be able to handle adversity a lot better. Um, and that's something that, we as coaches that we look for. Obviously talent is important. We're looking for talented individuals who can play the game of basketball and work as a team. But, having that guy who's going to do the extra work. Are you going to stay after practice? Are you going to get your shots up? Are you going to get your free throws? Are you going to schedule a workout with us coaches? Those are the guys that we see excel, is the guys that want to achieve, not just right as they're recruited, they're done and everything, like, oh, I completed my work, I'm on a college roster, I can just lay back and just play.
Mhm.
No, that's really not how it works at Carroll. Is, at that point, that's where the work begins.
Yeah.
That's where, you gotta take time for yourself to get better, especially if you want to touch the court. Especially at our conference in the frontier, you really got to put in the work for yourself. Practice only gives you an hour to an hour and a half of time to where, we can coach you. But if you want to schedule maybe an hour with a coach or get in time on your own and get some shots up, that's where you see the most improvement, is the guys that are, talented, good athletes, good students, but the guys that are going to go above and beyond because they want to win. And they know that if they put in the work that they can win at that point. So, I mean, we're looking for those guys all over the place. It doesn't matter if you're from Utah, small town in Wyoming, we're going to be looking for guys all over the country that are going to make those impressions. And ultimately, like I said, good character guys.
Yeah.
Here in Helena, Carroll's treated as an NBA team, pretty much. The community loves you. And not to sound like bad or anything, but you're going to be very highlighted and have a target on your back for good or for bad. If one of your teammates makes a mistake, then that's going to come down on the team and it's going to affect the rapport with the community. But that's why it's so important that we have those guys that interact with the community, that are good quality guys. Something that we do that kind of highlights that is, after every home game, there's a lot of people in the stands. Before we even go into the locker room, we split up and go to each bleacher, shake everyone's hand individually, and tell them thank you for coming to the game. So it's just one of those things where you got to have class athletes that show class in every aspect, whether they're doing work on their own, how they interact with their professors, the community, with us coaches, and who are going to be mature enough to know to take coaching, to take criticism, and to accept the role in whatever we have for them. And those are the guys that, as they've been willing and open to that, they've really excelled and become great players that we've become excited for down the road few years, that they're going to make even more of an impact. So you really do have to get outside your comfort zone because there's no growth in it.
Yeah.
That's what we tell our guys. And the guys that do get uncomfortable, you see those guys become, different basketball players in a very good way.
Yeah. And programs that have high character guys because it finds a way of coming out either on or off the court. Like I love the video of the University of Houston player whose teammate got upset and knocked the trash can over, and then he picks the trash up on the way back to the tunnel
Mhm.
after after a loss. It's like it would have been real easy to just walk by it because you were upset about the loss, but those are the kind of things that show in the character of the kid, which reflect on the program. I
Yeah.
tell kids all the time, the guys that play the most are rarely the last guy to make it to practice and are rarely the first guy to pack his stuff and leave after practice. They're the guys
Mhm.
putting in the work. Lillard said it best when he said, I put in all this work when nobody's around so I can perform like I do when everybody's watching. And I think
Mhm.
that the higher up you go, the higher levels you compete at, the more and more that is obvious is that you have to put in work with trainers in the weight room. You have to have your diet in place. You got to sleep. You got to take care of your body. You have to recover. These kids,
Mm.
especially the younger kids, think, well, I'm going to play on 3 different AAU teams, and then I'm going to go play pickup games, and then I'm going to go to my trainer after a pickup game. You have to rest and recover because the
Yeah.
best ability in basketball is availability, and you're not very helpful to your team if you sprain a back or strain a hamstring or do something from overworking your body. So I think understanding that big picture of yes, you have to work and you have to put that in, but you gotta eat, you gotta, you know, take your take your vitamins and get your hydration and do those things. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Um, so now it's just what I call the fourth quarter. It's the part where I just kind of give you an open mic and we finish this thing off with letting you just give some words of advice to prospective athletes that may be watching this, and I'll let you go wild on whatever advice you want to give them.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing I'll start with, for those that are wanting to play at the next level, is there's no growth in the comfort zone. There's no comfort in the growth zone. So, meaning by that, you can have all the talent in the world, you can have the grades and everything, but are you willing to go even past that? Something that I look for when I recruit is, I look at talent, obviously, but the biggest thing that sells me is their character and their body language. If I see them, make a mistake, but lift their head up and get back to the next play, those are kids that I really look at. Um, and I can tell that, hey, they've been through adversity and they put in the work. Maybe they've struggled with that in the past. And so they've moved past that. They can handle adversity of college basketball. Um, but yeah, you really got to, do things that make you uncomfortable. I mean, for me, getting a coaching job at the college level, it took me getting uncomfortable at sometimes, reaching out to those connections and making sure that, no, I'm presenting myself in my best manner. And improving things that are my weakness. I think that's the biggest thing. If you're willing to and going after a job, once after basketball, after college, you do have to get uncomfortable. You do have to be willing to have those learning moments and be willing to want to get better as a person. So that's the biggest thing there, coming into basketball and at Carroll. Any program obviously is got to get uncomfortable, got to put in the work. Like you said, you got to take time to rest so that you can give your 100% effort. If you're burying yourself into the ground, you're only hurting yourself. If I see guys that put in the work but are getting good sleep, getting up on time for classes, and are having a good diet, no, again, it really does pay off and it really does show in their countenance, in their skills, in their attitudes. Those things really do go a long way. And if you really feel like, you're falling behind and you feel like there's really nowhere to go and play ball, no, sometimes maybe that's not your calling. So maybe sometimes that's something that you got to accept. But something that I will tell you is there's so many opportunities around the country. No, it's just not limited to Utah or Montana or the West Coast, and it's just not limited to just their varsity teams. There's a lot of different opportunities, but it comes with, again, are you willing to make time to reach out to coaches? Are you willing to make time to maybe go and visit a campus and stop by the basketball offices and make a good impression? Are you willing to, look into those JV programs? Are you willing to play at any level if that's really what you want? Um, and that's something that, I'd probably leave with you guys is making sure that you're putting your best self first. You're doing well in the classroom and realizing that, there are opportunities that you're not alone in this recruiting process. It's hard with the transfer portal, all the things that are happening, but there are opportunities out there. And if you don't know about those opportunities, obviously reach out to college coaches, build those connections. Anyone can build connections with anyone. It all starts with you personally if you're willing to put in the work. It's just a lot of work for yourself. At the end of the day, you may be tired. You may feel like your efforts are frugal, but they're not. Eventually, somebody's going to take a chance on you. Um, and that's something that was for me is being on this coaching staff is sometimes guys take chances on people. And for me, it was being on this coaching staff, and it's been a great fit. And so making sure you do those things that are good for you, put in the work and realize there's stuff for you out there. And if college basketball isn't in the ropes for you, you can kind of be like me and maybe get into coaching. There's no limit to what you can do as far as getting back into the game, getting out of the game. Um, it just comes with you and it starts with you. Are you willing to put in the work? And how much investment are you willing to put into it? And I promise if you do that, it does pay off however is best for you. So whether it is coaching or getting on a program or a staff, something that's very tailored to you will present itself.
I love it. I love it. I appreciate your time, Coach. I really do. I think you dropped a lot of good jewels for the kids that'll be listening, and even for the parents. Honestly, I know a lot of parents think, "Well, I'll DM this coach, and if he writes back, great. If he doesn't, then that's not the one that we want because he's not writing back to DMs." Get out of your comfort zone, people. Send an email, put a phone number, ask if you can come check out a campus. I love it. Um, Coach, go ahead and tell them where they can find you on Twitter, and we'll see if we can get you a few kids to follow you, and I'll tag you on a couple videos. I got some pretty good kids coming up in the next 2 years, so hopefully we can get a few of them on your recruiting board. Go ahead and tell them where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter. It's going to be under Patten 89908.
There we go.
Or you can just look up Connor Patten on there. Carroll College assistant, men's basketball coach. So,
There,
and always, I'm open to messages. I'm open to follows. Let me know how I can best help you.
there you go. Appreciate your time, Coach. Thank you. And we'll definitely
All
be
right.
in touch. I figured out how to access the film from our Puma season, so I'll be chopping up little video highlights and posting them on Twitter now that I figured it out. It's not baller TV, it's a whole new animal, and I'm not familiar with it. I'm drinking from a fire hose in year one, but
Here
I'll
we
definitely
go.
keep you posted if we got any Carroll College caliber talent in the legacy program this year.
There we go. Sounds great.
Appreciate it, Coach. Thank you.
All right. See you, coach.